On 5 News, live from Washington, he did it. Donald Trump makes history by defying the polls and shocking the world to be elected the 45th president of the United States.
The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer.
Tens of millions of Americans rejected the establishment and chose a candidate with no political experience. But for Hillary Clinton's supporters, just utter despair. In the past few minutes, she'd appeared in public for the first time since the result.
This is not the outcome we wanted or we worked so hard for, and I'm sorry that we did not win this election.
Donald Trump's victory is a wake-up call to the political order, and it's one that divides the people. Who did you vote for?
Hillary. You win some, you lose some.
It's going to be difficult, but he's there now, and we've got to find a way to make it work.
And the other main news story, 5 people are killed and more than 50 injured after a tram overturned in South London. We've the latest from the scene. Hello and welcome to 5 News. I'm Sian Williams, live from Washington, D.C. on the day Donald Trump has been elected the next president of the United States. It is the most stunning of results, one that many never imagined and one that's still reverberating around the world. He'll start his 4 years at the White House in January. His place there secured during a dramatic night that slowly but emphatically ended the dreams of his rival, Hillary Clinton. She called him personally to concede the race before he emerged to address his jubilant supporters, as well as the rest of the American people and, of course, the watching world. The key word, unity, from a candidate whose campaign caused so much division, but ultimately won him the prize. Our political editor, Andy Bell, reports.
Has there been a more extraordinary or unexpected sight in modern American politics? President-elect Donald J. Trump. In his campaign, he had often been brash, boastful, even insulting. Today, though, flanked by his vice president and his youngest son, he knew a different tone was expected.
Now it's time for America to bind the wounds of division. Have to get together. To all Republicans and Democrats and independents across this nation, I say it is time for us to come together as one united people. It's time. I pledge to every citizen of our land that I will be president for all Americans, and this is so important to me.
He had threatened his opponent with jail during the campaign. Again, he now had a different message.
Hillary has worked very long and very hard over a long period of time, and we owe her a major debt of gratitude for her service to our country.
And he concluded with a promise to those he believes delivered him this stunning victory.
Every single American will have the opportunity to realize his or her fullest potential. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer.
Hillary Clinton conceded in a phone call to Donald Trump. This morning, she emerged finally to make what was probably the most painful speech of her life.
This is not the outcome we wanted or we worked so hard for, and I'm sorry that we did not win this election for the values we share and the vision we hold for our country. But I feel pride and gratitude for this wonderful campaign that we built together. This vast, diverse, creative, unruly, energized campaign.
At the start of the night, most had expected Hillary Clinton to win. This was supposed to be her victory party in New York. But by midnight, as states like Florida and Ohio were going to Trump, they started to realize something was wrong.
It's not official. Hillary Clinton could still win this, but it feels as if the results are all going one way, Trump's way, and it also feels as if they've given up hope.
Soon, even without a formal announcement, the Hillary supporters realised their party had turned into a wake, and they began leaving.
And he's absolutely the most frightening person I've ever come across in my lifetime. He is just full of hate, and he just hates everyone that's not a rich white male.
I really hope that he was just putting on a big show and that he doesn't really believe the things that he said, because what he said was unbelievable. And
How does President Trump sound?
it sounds horrible, like horrible.
In Times Square, a strangely silent crowd waited for the final confirmation of what was now undeniable. A few blocks away at Trump Tower, where the president-elect was watching the results, there were onlookers and some supporters.
They're tired of being told, this, we know what's best for you. It's time for people to say what's best for us, and I think we have by saying, we want Trump in the office.
We're tired of the lies and we want to drain the swamp and get America back to what it used to be.
And while they waited, some anger boiled over.
And I'm okay if you want, but I'm not happy about it.
She defended a child rapist. Hold on. Bill Clinton is a sexual predator, so get your
facts straight. And he is not running for president.
New York Times.
Americans are waking up to a new president, and after 8 years of Barack Obama, a new vision of this country too. It's an outcome which has delighted half of them and appalled the other half.
Well, Andy's in New York still. Now, Andy, we use the word shock and upset a lot in politics. Put this in some kind of context for us. This is a historic win, isn't it?
This is a massive shock. It's a massive shock to the political system here. Don't take my word for it. All the political commentators I've been listening to, reading this morning, agree on that. This was a man who was mocked when he first suggested he could run for the presidency, mocked by the establishment of his own party. He swept them away. Once he'd won the nomination, Hillary Clinton's team thought he would be relatively easy to beat. See how that turned out. This is a man who's had no government experience, no political experience. But of course, for his supporters, that is exactly the point. They wanted someone who wasn't from the establishment, from Washington. That is the sort of president they wanted. Now, that is the sort of president they have.
Andy, thanks very much. Well, let's take a closer look at how Donald Trump secured that extraordinary victory. And remember, he needed 270 electoral college votes, and he's got 278. Well, to stand any chance of being elected, it was all down to a few key swing states, places where the outcome could have gone either way. One by one, they went Donald Trump's, taking Iowa, Ohio, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and most crucially, Florida. That was the state the analysts said he simply couldn't lose. Well, Julian Drucker is in the Florida city of West Palm Beach for us tonight. We can speak to him now. Julian, how did he do it?
Sean, he won it with stamina, he won it with health, and to use his own vernacular, he won it bigly. We spent the night at a Republican Party event, and over around 6 hours, we witnessed the sort of political upset not seen in generations.
For Donald Trump's supporters in the state he had to win, this was little more than an American revolution. The night started with modest expectations, but as exit polls came in and Mr. Trump was winning Republican states with healthy margins, they were daring to dream.
I don't want to be too confident yet because there's still a long way to go, but he's doing great. And I think he's doing better than the media thought he was going to do.
I mean, it's a ways to go yet, but, he's going to do it. I really, truly believe that.
These were trepidatious times for Team Trump. But if there was a moment it first looked like he might just do it, this was it. Securing the key battleground of North Carolina.
It's going to be the new Brexit.
It's the Trexit.
It feels like it's happening now, doesn't it?
It is happening. It's felt this way the whole time.
If the West Coast comes in and it's blue, it's still anybody's race.
As the world watched Florida, Florida watched TV. Eventually, even Trump's must win was an actual win.
Donald Trump has taken Florida. It is the victory he and his supporters so desperately dreamed of.
But even at this point, a Trump presidency wasn't nailed on.
I'm dancing in the aisles, and it feels good. I don't want to celebrate prematurely, but I think we're going to do it.
We love Donald. He's going to make America back to what it used to be, and he's just going to be the best president. We've waited a long time. This is our Independence Day.
There's no more enthusiastic people on the face of the planet than a Trump supporter.
And you feel great tonight.
I'm just over the top. Over the top.
Then, for the followers of Trump, a slump. Enthusiasm waned in the wait for the final states. But by now, it was all academic. This electoral earthquake had taken place, changing the landscape, changing the world.
Julian, Donald Trump had to pick up so many swing states when the polls and the numbers seemed against him. How remarkable was his achievement?
It really is, Sean. As well as taking Florida, taking Pennsylvania is remarkable. Not Republican since the days of Ronald Reagan. What happened to that Hispanic protest? Well, a third of Hispanic men still voted for Donald Trump. Why was that? Well, it seems there's a large number of Cuban Americans who will forever vote Republican. It all stems back to the hatred of JFK, a Democrat, and the Cuban Missile Crisis. At that rally in Pittsburgh on Sunday, we saw visceral anger. That was when Donald Trump promised something on the scale of Brexit plus. Even that seemed modest for Mr. Trump, because this truly is the mother of all protest votes.
Julian, thank you. Well, before the election, many world leaders expressed serious concerns about the prospect of a Donald Trump presidency. Today, the tone has been rather more measured. Let's speak now to our chief correspondent, Tessa Chapman. She joins us from Downing Street. Tessa, what has been the reaction from Number 10?
Hi, Sean. Well, we're told that Theresa May wrote a letter to Donald Trump this morning to congratulate him. And in an interview this afternoon, she insisted the historic special relationship remains strong. Her tone, you'll notice, was very steady, very considered. Don't forget, this time last year as Home Secretary, she was very critical of his plan to stop Muslims entering America. But that was then. This is now. He has won, and it's time for a fresh start.
I look forward to working with President-elect Trump. The American people have elected him as the next President of the United States. Britain and the United States share values of freedom, of democracy and enterprise. And I look forward to building on the special relationship we have between our two countries to ensure the security and prosperity of our two nations in the future.
So that's Theresa May. What have other world leaders been saying?
They're sending congratulations but choosing their words carefully. Angela Merkel, for instance, offered close cooperation. Hollande said the results opened up a period of uncertainty. EU and NATO leaders have invited Donald Trump for summits, and they need to talk.
Tessa, thank you. Well, still to come on 5 News.
You're fired, Kate. You're fired. And Keisha, you're fired.
From apprentice to president, the businessman who made it to the Oval Office. What makes Donald Trump tick? And I've been speaking to people here in Washington about their reaction to the election result.
I don't mind the man, and I don't like her, so I voted for Trump.
We'll see you after the break. Hello and welcome back. You're watching 5 News live from Washington, D.C., which is still reverberating with the news that their 45th president will be Donald Trump. It is impossible to overestimate what he's achieved here. He'll be the first leader in the White House to have no prior experience in either the government or the military. And he's a man who about a year ago was best known for being the host of a reality television show. Well, Catherine Jones has been looking at Donald Trump's journey from presenter to president.
You're fired, Kate. You're fired. And Keisha, you're fired.
This is how most Americans know their next president.
You know, I can't fire you for being inappropriate. Yeah. Because I'm inappropriate.
The Apprentice ran for 11 years, cementing Donald Trump's image as ruthless, successful, unconventional.
You're fired.
His is not a rags to riches story. In 1946, Donald Trump was born into wealth. His father, a New York property tycoon with German roots, his mother, an immigrant from Scotland. Taking over the family firm in the 70s, he excelled at self-promotion, the gleaming Trump name plastered on hotels, casinos and Manhattan skyscrapers. Even after his business sank $5 billion into debt at the end of the 80s, the Donald's profile just kept on growing.
Excuse me, where's the lobby?
Down the hall and to the left.
Thanks.
With cameo film roles and questions about his political ambitions.
You've said, though, that if you did run for president, you believe you'd win.
Well, I don't know. I think I'd win. I tell you what, I wouldn't go in to lose.
Well, he did win, and President-elect Trump now has not just one, but a whole string of controversial policies to deliver.
I would bomb the out of him.
A total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
A great border wall.
As well as building that wall, he's pledged to ban Muslim immigrants, massively cut taxes and put up trade barriers, plus cancel climate change measures, scrap the Obamacare system, expand the military and clean up politics. However, one man who knows his personality well says Trump the president may be surprisingly different from Trump the campaigner.
The seeds of Trump's defeat in 4 years would be in any extreme measures that he takes. So as a man who doesn't want to fail, I think he'll be moderated mainly by his ambition.
But never has a candidate been so personally controversial, and the scrutiny of Donald Trump's past behaviour will not end today. Victory may yet be more bitter than sweet for Donald Trump. Catherine Jones, 5 News.
Well, there'll be more on the election in just a moment when we're going to be hearing from the voters, but just one other story for you. And 5 people have been killed and dozens more injured after a tram overturned in South London. Police have arrested the driver following the crash. It happened in Croydon early this morning. Dominic Reynolds reports.
It was taking commuters into London to work. But 51 people ended up in hospital and at least 5 have died after these 2 tram carriages came off their tracks and overturned.
The emergency services are still working now. We're now in the recovery stage of the operation. And I pay tributes to the emergency services, particularly the London Fire Brigade, British Transport Police and the London Ambulance Service for their hard work.
Rescue crews were there before the sun came up. Several people needed to be freed from the wreckage and the crews kept coming. There hasn't been a crash which cost this many lives in London for nearly 15 years.
The overturned tram carriages are just up these tracks and out of sight here, but what you can see from here is the sheer scale of the emergency services response. 13 fire crews, 8 ambulance crews. They've been here for more than 8 hours.
The bend where the crash happened is steep. This morning it was raining heavily. And tonight, accident investigators said the tram was travelling significantly faster than it should have been. The driver's been arrested. Dominic Reynolds, 5 News in Croydon.
Well, back now to our main story tonight. Just to let you know, President Obama is said to be meeting President-elect Trump tomorrow at the White House. And of course, the politics of that after Donald Trump raised questions about his legitimacy for office will be very interesting. Away from that, though, what are the thoughts of the people here in Washington about their new leader? I joined some of them for breakfast. Ben's Chili Bowl has been part of Washington life since 1958. Over the years, presidents have stopped by on their way to the White House. This morning, regulars are digesting the latest news.
I think our institutions in the United States are very strong. Our institutions of democracy, our Congress, our histories and our cultures about dealing with political differences. I'm okay.
You've met Donald Trump?
I've met him a couple times in New York and once here. And he's actually a pretty smart, gracious guy. And he exposed a hurting pain in our country that has not been dealt with for a long time. And I'm hoping that he really will help middle America get back on its feet.
Who did you vote for?
Hillary. You win some, you lose some. But it's good, though, because God got it.
God's got it?
Yes, God got it. So whatever comes down the pipe, I'm all right with it.
I think the American people came out and voted. That's what I think. And I think the people that didn't want Hillary Clinton, that might not have liked Trump, stayed home. I don't mind the man, and I don't like her, so I voted for Trump.
Your dad feels the same way? Do you feel the same way, Dad?
Pretty much. But I've always felt like we should have a businessman in the White House.
It's going to be difficult, but he's there now, and we've got to find a way to make it work.
Do you think he'll come here?
I don't know. I'm inviting him. I'm inviting him.
You're inviting
I'm
Trump?
Inviting him. I'm inviting Trump to come
Ben's
here.
Chili Bowl.
To Ben's Chili Bowl. Come and sit down with Harold Bell. Maybe you can learn something from me.
And you may well go down to Ben's Chili Bowl. They're hoping for unity in a divided country there. Think of this as America's Brexit. It's a roar against the political establishment, the voices of the angry who were told the economy was going their way and just didn't feel it. They voted for change here, and just like at home, that means a bumpy ride for a while. We'll feel it in Britain. Donald Trump says he'll get along with all other nations who are willing to get along with America. We won't know how that'll work out until he's sitting in the Oval Office in January. Until then, there's a good deal of healing to be done in a very polarised country. There is shell shock in some parts here, jubilation in others. Today, the outsiders became the insiders. What that means for all of us is very unclear. Well, I'm going to be back at 6:30. Until then, from all the team here in Washington, goodbye.